Welcome to Raw, a few days after Clash in the Castle and Worlds Collide. I'm angry about Worlds Collide. I messed up on the women's tag match. The women's NXT tag match where Dewdrop and Nikki Ash were going after the titles. I thought they had the WWE titles. I was wrong. My mistake. I hate when I'm tired and I don't think. I botch normally. Let's be honest. I've always botched. I botched when I was a kid, and I'm botching now. But when I'm tired, it's worse. So that pissed me off. But when we see this show, was it a good show? It was. It wasn't like it built heavily on top of what happened on Clash of the Castle. It just did. It did build on it, but not heavily. I don't know what to tell you. This was a passable show, but it doesn't feel like it was a substantial show that's going to be heading into a future Survivor Series. Because we're still going to get smaller shows in between. And this will lead us into the smaller shows, but it's just me. Opening, Fatal 4-Way for the number one contendership for the unified tag titles by the Usos. Usos did not leave the country due to the fact of their DWIs. So both of them are trapped. That's the reason why Sawyer Sequoia, who is their younger brother, because remember, Jimmy and Jay were born within about an hour of each other. They're both basically the same age almost. They had to use their younger brother to get the job done. So now that they're back in Kansas City, I believe they were in Kansas City there. They had this match. I'm like, okay, number one contendership. We got I'm mispronouncing it when it comes to Angel and Alberto Carrillo. I forgot their name. Then we have Alpha Academy. We had New Day. And we had the Street Profits. Fine. It wasn't a bad match. At least until... I'm not even going to put any images in here. I know it had been rumored that Braun was coming back. And also Bray. But here's the thing. Let's put this in perspective. Titan, that's what he was being called. Titan would have been better off staying out of WWE. Because if we're going to be honest, what are we really getting back? Now, for him, he's come home. He never wanted to leave the company. Yes, he did rake them over getting a big deal from Vince until the pandemic, and then they realized they gave him too much. And since they didn't want to renegotiate the contract, or he didn't want to renegotiate, they got rid of his ass. I think they didn't want to renegotiate. They just got rid of him because it was too expensive. He's back. He didn't want to leave the company. He loved it. And Raquel, supposed to be his girlfriend, he's with his girl again, happily, and since she'll jump between Raw and SmackDown, he'll get to see her whenever Raw is on, if he's going to be on Raw, or if he's going to be on SmackDown. She'll jump from one show to another. 1 week on one show, 1 week on the other. She'll be fine. But what did we get? Did we get someone new? Braun looks good. Got himself cut. He looks good. But here's the thing. Did he improve? That's the question. I'm not against Braun Strowman. I never was. But I am going to be an honest reviewer. He comes out and annihilates everybody. And then when he wanted to nail Otis, because he was the biggest guy that was in the entire match, as he decides to do the A-Train, running around, he slips and falls while he's about to hit Chad Gable. He misses him and then charges after getting back up, hits an Otis. That didn't look good. He destroyed everybody else, and then we went to commercial. And supposedly, while that commercial was going on for the last 5 minutes, he was cheered. We can't take that away. He was mostly cheered. But we waited 5 minutes to see him in that ring until the cheering was done. And that was a mistake. They should have let him go into the back and let the people who were going to help everyone, their trainers, to come out. And that would have been more effective than leaving Braun out there to be watched. Now, I can understand why Triple H did it. He really wanted to make the effect that Braun is here to stay, that he's destructive. And he did have a moment to talk, and he said, I'm going to be here to stay. Nothing's going to stop me, and I'm going to SmackDown. Watch for me. Now, here's the thing. Watching Braun Strowman does not mean Braun Strowman is great. Unless he has improved heavily, because I saw him during his, what was it, Control Your Narrative 3. I believe it was 3 or 2. Was it 2 or 3? I can't remember. But I did see him on the Control Your Narrative pay-per-view. He looked okay, but he was still doing most of what he normally would do. Because as the story went with EC3, he had to change from being Braun to being Titan. And then you saw a little bit of difference. But here, there's a good possibility he hasn't decided to change his style. He may just decide to keep the style because that's what people know him as. I'm not agreeing with it. Now, we had the women's tag match for the WWE titles. This is where I believe they messed up big time on Worlds Collide. Because I thought it was Nikki Ash, ASH. Almost, why don't she almost a supervillain now? Wouldn't it have been better to make her almost a supervillain than almost a superhero? I'm just saying. And Doudrop versus the current champions of Raquel Rodriguez and, what is that her name? I keep forgetting her name. There's some reason she's not resonating with me, this girl. Aaliyah, I believe her name is. There's something about her she's not resonating. Like maybe she just isn't there yet. And I'm not feeling her personality. They should have been at Worlds Collide to unify the damn titles. That's what I think would have been better than this. Because what did we get here? We just got a standard match. And yes, Raquel and Aaliyah won. But what does it really give the women? Yes, they're going to go on SmackDown. They're going to face someone there. But then what about NXT? Wouldn't it have been better that they unified both sets of titles and had one set of titles so NXT, SmackDown, and Raw could have someone wander in between the three so the champions will always have fresh feuds or at least fresh matches? There's no way that Raw and SmackDown has enough women to do the job. Raw, SmackDown, NXT, at least they would have had at least 8 or 9 maybe, not 8 or 9 women. Let me give it to you like this. I'm taking a guess they would have at least 6 teams. 2, 4, 6. At least 2 teams on Raw, 2 teams on SmackDown, 2 teams on NXT. At least it would have been that. And if you got to put some women together to make some extra teams, then you would have 3, 6, 9. That would at least be good. And you can shuffle them around. As it stands, it didn't work for me. Moving on. We got, let me give it to you like this. When it came to Austin Fury in his segment, being angry that he got knocked in the jaw by a Tyson Fury, a relative of his, he started botching his words because his jaw is really hurting. Look, I'm going to tell you something. My jaw should be hurting more than anybody's. Because my muscles on one side of my face have been jacked since 2016, since I caught Bell palsy. Yeah, I did. I think I even said it on my channel back then. My face works, but you know what? It should still hurt because my face, like that. His is going, oh, come on. Anyway, was it an effective segment? No. Honestly, using Tyson Fury as an excuse for your jaw hurting after a few days. I know in real life, you get jacked in your jaw, it does take time to heal. Look, I got a messed up foot that a laptop got dropped on. And it hasn't fully healed yet. And it's going to take time, particularly that I'm the type of person that doesn't stay still. I constantly keep moving. I get up out of bed. I keep walking. So my foot will never heal normally. It will take time. But with Tyson, nailing him in the face, and him acting like I can't talk right because my jaw has been jacked, it didn't feel like it was the right thing. I'm sorry. Anybody else, it probably would, but for me, no. But seeing Kevin Owens come out, setting up the match, I'm going like, well, it's better than seeing the Kevin Owens show. I'm honest. I hate the Kevin Owens show. Kevin Owens did a good job with it, as much as he could. But now seeing him as a prize fighter is a lot more interesting. And in the end, he won. Admittedly, that one spot where I'm not going to put any images, but when you see that Austin grabs his head and whacks the back of his head onto those steel steps. I don't care who you are. No matter how many times you put your hands behind the back of your head, some part of that inertia will get the better of you. And if you don't know about inertia, when someone takes something and throws it, or something's already in motion, the moment it stops, you're going to feel it. And you heard his arms or his back of his head go bing off of the aluminum steel or the diamond plate steps. I'm sorry, you're going to feel it. That I don't like to see. That is dangerous. I'm sorry. So, Austin lost. But what does this really give a Kevin Owens? Suppose he's still building up to get to Roman Reigns. Fine. But Tyson, he's getting his ass whooped a bit. And being the chosen one is understandable. But you're hoping that it's going to lead somewhere. As I said before, we got a year before we really know that everything that's being changed is going to really make a difference. Next, Rey Mysterio versus Damian Priest. Now we got to set this up. Opening of the show, we got Edge coming out. Edge was pissed. He said, I've known your dad. I've known Dom since he was 5 years old when he first came in with his dad. I used to stay over at the Mysterio house when we were in San Diego. I was allowed to stay there. Me and his dad would go and get ink together, which they did. Supposedly they actually did. I believe they did. So when it came to Edge and it came to Rey, they really love each other. They're family. And knowing Dom like this has pissed me off. But you're going to hash out the problem with your dad, Dom. Hash it out with him. Me, it doesn't work that way. Come out here and get your ass kicked. Rey comes out. Rey is begging him not to act like this. He's just confused. But it didn't work. We pretty much had Mommy as Mommy Poppy, as you want to put it. Madame Mommy Poppy. That is a Rhea Ripley. I gotta say this. Rhea may still sound like she's scripted a little bit. Like she's really not very animated. But at least it's way better than what she used to do. Yes, it seems like she's still following a bit of a script. So she doesn't feel natural still. But in this role, it is better than the way she was before joining Judgment Day. And a little bit afterward, before Vince was gone. So it does feel a little different. Her mannerisms and attitude are better. Now, here's where it gets a little bit, where maybe for me personally, I think this is what it should be. But I don't know about anyone else. I'm not saying that Dominic and Rhea actually have a real relationship in real life. But I kind of think they should make it look like that. She is not just controlling him. She's seducing him. Because that's what it kind of feels like it should be. Yes, she is goth. She's rock, and she kind of has a little bit of a goth. But in this situation where he's now part of Judgment Day, he should feel like he's gaining something a little bit more about making it about him. He should have the woman. That's what Rhea should be giving us a little bit of. Not making her fully sexualized. She doesn't need to be. She can show a little bit of affection and maybe a little bit of seduction, tiny bit. Nothing huge. It's just not her personality. But at least we can hint at it. That's just me. So this leads into a match. But that was, well, let me take this back. Essentially speaking, once Rey decides to walk away because he wasn't going to be in that. He did not want to see his son get hurt. But simply put, once this situation with Edge get his ass kicked, pretty much Rey wanted a match. He didn't want it against Rhea and didn't want it against Dom. He wanted Finn or Priest. So Priest is the one who did the match. Match was fine. It was alright match. But then you get the rest of Judgment Day with a Dom coming out. I'm not calling him Dominic. I'm calling him Dom. Dom. Like demented. Like dominated. That's what I think I'll use if I don't forget. Dom, the dominated. There you go. But I kind of wished a little more from Dominic. Yes, he watched. And yes, eventually he did interfere with the match by just getting onto the ring skirt. But I felt like he should have done something more to his father. I felt like he should have just whooped his ass. Hopefully, this will culminate to a match between Dominic and Rey, because this got to. Maybe by Survivor Series, we're going to have Dominic, or Dom the Dominated, will go up against his dad. And that's what I think it should culminate. Where, how can I explain this? Guys, Dominic has not really done anything on the main roster. Yes, he took his licks a couple of years ago just to prove that he is truly dedicated to pro wrestling. They whooped his ass legitimately in the ring. Like, if you've not seen the Broken Skull podcast, when it came to Bully Ray, with him and with Devon, because of what happened to Public Enemy, because of the way they acted, because they were ECW guys, the roster did not trust them. When they had that APA feud, they knew they were going to get this shit kicked in. They knew they were going to get beat up, and they were willing to take it because they wanted to be on the roster. And guess what? On that podcast, he said those were real hits. That was a 55-gallon drum that was literally hammered into us. We were literally getting hit hard enough to really be hurt. Not to be badly hurt, but to be hurt. They wanted to see if we were going to be genuine. And that's what happened with Dominic. He got his licks in the ring at a pay-per-view, purposely, to show that he really means business, and that the roster can say, okay, he can be part of us, not just because he's Ray's kid, but because he's dedicated to this. Because you get spoiled brats who are second generations. Let's be honest, it happens. Look at Charlotte Flair, okay? Now, final match of the night. We get the steel cage with Miz and Lashley for the U.S. title. Now, it's been a while since I've seen the U.S. title I'm just confused where this is going with Dexter Lumis. That's the reason why I'm botching. But it's good to see a steel cage match for the U.S. title. I don't remember the last time I've seen one. It's been a long time. And it's not the IC title that is on this show. It's the U.S. So they decided, since there is no unified champion, he wasn't there. Roman wasn't there. So they had to elevate the U.S. title and give Lashley that moment. So was it a good match? It was fine. It was about... Guys, this was the story of Dexter Lumis, the one who will not be named, trying to remind somebody, and Miz, because no one knows what Dexter did to him. In the end, you see a good match. It wasn't great. Let's be honest, the Miz has not been known to be an incredibly great wrestler. But here's the great wrestlers. Here are the ones that are crappy. Here are the good middle-of-the-road ones that you know that are solid enough, you know that can do the job. Miz is here. He's never really gone beyond this. Or even here. He doesn't go here. He's here to here. He always goes between being solid and sometimes being very good, but never top tier. It's just not him. Miz is more of a character than a pro wrestler. That's just how he is. That's his stick. He will go down in history as being what he is. And he did a good job. I'm not saying he did great. There are moments when he sucks, but it was all right. But as he's trying to climb out, and they tried to sell the situation where they beat the crap out of Lashley beforehand, here, by the end of it, Miz finally thought he got the edge. He finally started climbing out of the steel cage, and Dexter Lumis is under the ring. Now, it's not something we haven't seen. And to be honest, once Lashley speared him and was over, Dexter goes in, puts him out, and just starts patting his head. But what does this mean? I'm not saying this is great television. I'm not saying it's crappy television. The question is going to be, is this worth it? I'm not saying that Triple H is doing a bad job. I don't know. I don't know if this is really helping Dexter or if this is really helping Miz. It's still up in the air. It's just me. Was this a good show? It was okay. It really didn't make a lot of Clash in the Castle. There was no Drew McIntyre. None. Drew wasn't there. I kind of wish that Taylor Bates was there, actually. Not saying he's supposed to go on to the main roster, but I kind of wish they had spoken to him. At least done something. And yes, I know there was that bit about Seth and Matt Riddle. Matt wanting another match. And Seth saying no. I'm going to leave that alone because we still don't know where would this culminate. They need a stipulation that ends it. Because they're not going to end it. It's just me. Peace. Oh, and I hope you enjoyed the Gump Report. It will come out tomorrow. Peace now.